Morning, everyone. Well, the time is here. Like, just hard to believe. I don't know, I didn't tell Steve, I forgot, but I won't ask him too many questions too much anymore. Yeah, I still do, but anyhow, yeah. I was looking forward to come, but this part I wasn't really looking too forward, but it's okay. There's going to be some of you know my journey already. I've shared it before, but there's some good. I mean, there's a lot of good. There's some not. I had a lot of things happen in my life. Sometimes if I reflect back, I just have to think it's amazing that I'm still here. God still has a purpose for me. Some reason I knew was have to share, and at the end I'm going to share some. It's going to be a little harder for me to share, but I'm going to let it out and share some of it. So we thank you for your prayers and just ask that we continue praying. I was looking forward to meeting you all again. It's just, I look out here and it's small. I like, man, this is a huge room for just a few people here. At home, you look out and it's full, you know. But I thank every one of you for the move you've made here. And there's very few Sundays that go past that if I'm in church that I don't think about you out here. Just very few. I'm sitting there and my mind comes out here. Well, I wonder what they're doing today. I wonder how they're doing. I wonder what message they have today. That often goes across my mind. And another thing, I was totally surprised when I walked in here this morning and there was Ellen Whitmer sitting. I was like, wow. Like, what was it, 13, 14 years ago? He worked with us for a little while there, doing carpentry work. We had a great time. Well, I did. I don't know if he did, but I did. Anyhow, yeah, I just brought many memories back. And I told him I was floored when I seen him in there. But, we never know. If you go somewhere, you never know who you meet up with. And also I want to thank Wayne for coming out here with us, and he did the driving. I mean, I can drive, but going this distance just makes me a little leery. I'm just not, with some health struggles and stuff, I get tired quick, and I just feel more comfortable, going with someone else and let someone else do the driving. I mean, I enjoy driving, and me and my wife went different places already, But yeah, so anyhow, this, just had to think of a verse, how do you say it, Deuteronomy 31:8. It's in the New International Version. The Lord himself goeth before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. If I could always remember that. He is always with us. He will never leave you. But anyhow, we'll just start in. I was born in Huntsburg, Ohio, which that's the Middlefield, Ohio area. I was born on January 6th of 68. Of course, I don't know much. I don't know anything about that day, but I was too little to know. I was just young. Anyhow, that was my birth date. And when I was, a year old or something like that, I got really sick. And my parents, they didn't know I was wrong. They took me to the hospital, and I had I can't even think of the name. Spinal meningitis. I had a pretty bad case of it. And I ran a lot of high fever for a long time. And the doctors even were worried that I won't live a normal life. So that was the first step. But I do live a normal life. Well, however, I think I do. Yeah, so, but I'm a little slower. It takes me long. I can't just boom, dig into something and have it. It takes me a while to figure things out. But once I have it, I have it. But that's okay. We're not all the same. And so, but I have to tell one good thing for the children about that part. My mom always told me, Willie, that's what you promised today, because before I went home, there was one nurse, I guess I had, and it was a black lady. And I just have to put a little humor in here. And she asked my mom if I can give him a kiss before I go, hug and a kiss before she takes me home. She said yes. And so my mom always told me that's my problem, because of that black lady gave me a kiss. She said that ruined my life. But anyhow, I had to share that. Well, that's enough of that now. Maybe that is what's wrong with me. I don't know. Anyhow, so the closest that I can remember was about Ohio. I don't know what my age was, but anyhow, it was one day we went to church. We always went to church every other Sunday there. And, of course, Dad, he took the horse and he told me to stay there by the buggy. And that's just another little episode. And these people had a whole bunch of guineas. So somebody and I started walking up towards the barn hill there, towards these guineas. And boy, all of a sudden these guineas all flocked around me. And I just bawled my head out. And they jumped on me and they pecked me. And I don't know who the guy was, but somebody came along and rescued me. That was that same day. My parents were ready to go home, and there was no Willie around. That was really unusual, because Dad would never, even after church a lot of times, we were allowed to go play, but Dad didn't give us the free rope. I mean, we knew we had to be around there. But I was just young. I think like 3 or 4. And they couldn't find me. But you know where they found me? They had a big dog house. They had this big dog. That dog house stood probably like 3 feet tall. Had a big dog. And I was out there, and they looked all over the barn for me. The guy, the owner where the church was at, he said, that something looks funny. He said, that dog is laying outside his box, and he never did that before. So where was Willie? I was inside that dog house, sound asleep. So okay, that's not enough of that. Your children had a little bit of Willies now. So anyhow, life went on, and everything was a little bit about in there. When we used to, through the winter time, we'd go over to my grandparents, Gingerich's. They just lived about the first part of my couple of years, they were just about across the road, or just up the road a little bit. And then we moved a couple miles on down the road. So I always liked to take the sled, and it was a long twine put it together and tie it behind the buggy. And I'd get on the sled, and away we'd go. That was a lot of fun. Of course, on the way home, it was after dark, and it was snowing, and I got on that sled, and we had to cross 528, which is a blacktop. And Dad never gave it a thought, and I didn't either. So Dad decided he's going to give me a run, give me a real ride. Of course, Dad his horses always had a lot of snap. Dad would not put up with a plug. He liked snap and style. So he got up there and he clucked to that horse. When we crossed 528, and down the other side was a little bit of a downhill, a little dip down and flatten out. That horse always used to just stretch out and just go all he had worth, Well, when I went across the blacktop, all of a sudden, snap. The twine tore. There I was, man. Dad, the buggy, they just shoo down the road. I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I knew I had to get off the blacktop because of vehicles. And, I started shivering. I was scared. What am I going to do? Dad's not going to find out until he gets home. But just so happened, I guess, that one of my sisters happened to peek out the curtain, noticed that I wasn't there anymore. So I started walking towards home. It was probably another mile or mile and a half. I don't know, just something like that. So I just started walking. Pretty soon I seen that he turned around. I seen the buggy lights coming again, and he came up and gathered me up. That time we just stuck the sled in back behind the buggy, and I got jumped in the buggy. There was no more of that roping around. But anyhow, yeah, so finally I also remember the big snowstorms we had. What was that, 77 and 76, something like that. Anyhow, the place where we lived, my mom had her wash lines. Them snowbanks were right even with our wash lines, and they were probably like, well, you know what, a wash line, they can stretch out now. But it covered that. And I remember walking across, and I was like, wow, I'm walking across the wash lines, Yeah, I remember that snow, Dad had to get somebody out with a crawler, a big bulldozer, or a backhoe or something. You open the eye of snow is so deep. So I remember those 2 winters in a row like that, and cold. It was really cold. But eventually my parents decided that they wanted to find something special for us children. With the way things were going in there, Dad was concerned. So they decided they're going to move out of there. So one day they went to Pennsylvania, and I was all excited about Pennsylvania. Of course, we didn't go along the first time. He came back, and he said that they told us children that they were looking at a farm. Oh, man, we had all kinds of questions, So they went out, I don't know, it was a month or so later, they went back out, and they took us children all along. And we just thought that was the most, we were all excited. So they took us to the place, and I remember we went back, walked through the woods and stuff, and I just thought I had the world by its tail. So anyhow, they had the closing done that afternoon on that place. So I was 11 when my parents moved to Guy's Mill, Cockerton, down the farm. And of course, there was a lot of work to do. And that first evening, there was brush. Our place, it was a mess. There was brush, weeds, blackberry bushes all the way around the house there. So Dad told me that I can take a sense, what would you call that? Like how would you call the English word for it? Scythe to chop the weed, and go around the house. And I started, and I was going for it. Next thing I knew, right through the middle of a hornet's nest. Man, I was just covered. And I just took off running. But anyhow, I got stung so bad, I remember my dad had to take me to the emergency room. I could barely breathe. My mouth was shut, So I was in there in the emergency room for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 hours on IV, and they put stuff through there, till I could breathe good again. And that was my first experience of Pennsylvania. I couldn't even look. I couldn't even see out of my eyes. My eyes were totally shut, closed, swollen shut. So Dad, he'd have to take my hand. He'd lead me, But anyhow, I got over that. Then, there was just a lot of work, and we had to get everything ready. The barn, we had to tear everything out of the barn and re-cement everything, put tie stalls in and stuff. And of course, I was still young, but I worked. That was good for me. I was just 11 years old, but I didn't get a lot of time. I still had every evening to play, but we worked. I still think that's a problem with a lot of people today. They don't have enough work. And not that I'm saying, they should all just work. But farming was the best place I grew up. I'd still say that home on the farm was the best, was my most enjoyable time. And often I was home plowing and stuff, when I was older, and I was like, that's not fair. they can go to work and they can be with their friends and doing this and that. Here I'm out here in this field. But now I look back and I say that was my best time of life. But anyhow, life goes on, and I got a little older, and there's a lot of things happened. But there's some other. I shared some over before a couple of years ago, but I kind of want to bypass that. I don't know why it comes to me. I don't know if some of you heard it. I don't know if you all did, but I was a little ornery character. So I was always in mischief. And yeah, I get in trouble a lot. That was another thing I want to share a little bit. I went through a stage where I thought I was smarter than Dad. My dad didn't know anything. I'm here to tell you, children, your mom and dad know more than you realize. And finally you get older and you get on the stage and you think, once your parents aren't here, you think, wow, you realize your parents knew a lot. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I had struggled with my dad. It's a shame, but I'm going to share it. God's leading it to me. I think I was like 16 maybe. I got so mad at Dad. I flew into him and I beat him. I mean, just wailed him. Dad just stood there and froze. I can still see his face to this day. He just bust out and cried. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor just bawling. That's what happens if you get mad. That's what happens if you let your anger control yourself. So anyone in here, don't let that anger take over. It gets you nowhere. It gets you in places you don't want to go. And then you have regrets. I would say you have regrets. It's all forgiven. It's all in the past. But some reason when I was preparing for this, thinking what to share, I just couldn't get rid of this thought. So now you know that I was not a, how would you say, I was not a flower boy. I got in trouble. But I remember I got back on my feet. That was the first time that I can remember Dad grabbed me, put his arm around me. I put my arm around him. We hugged each other. We didn't say a word. Finally Dad said, "I'm sorry, Willie." And I said, "I'm sorry, Dad." But there was still that feeling there. I was hurt, and I know Dad was hurt. So boys, your dad loves you. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do what I did. But there's a lot of, I just can't explain it. But anyhow, that was all taken care of. But I was pushed back a lot. I don't hold it against Dad. Dad made it right. I was pushed back a lot. And there's times I thought I just felt like I couldn't do anything right. But it was a lot my fault too. But my dad was so busy. He was trying to farm. He didn't have money, so he was working out. He had a business, laying blocks, cement, pouring cement and stuff like that, trying to run the farm. But who was doing the farm work? I was doing the farm work. Well, if things broke down, I couldn't help it. Dads never do that to your children. I know my dad has so many regrets, but that's what's so precious, that he discovered what was happening, and he made it right. Yeah, just let's not get so busy. Any one of us, I had to watch myself get so busy that sometimes I forget about, that I had a son. So don't let work take over. Anyhow, so let's go on. I don't have, my time is getting away from me. And I was warned about long-winded yesterday, so I have to slow down a little bit. Anyhow, speed up, not slow down. So as I got older, well, I think I was 16 when I got baptized, yeah. Then once I got my age at 20 and a half, anyhow, I still helped on the farm some, It was either that or I have to pay rent. Well, I'd rather helped on the farm, So one night, Dad wanted some hay mowed. So I told him I'll go back and I'll mow hay for him. And of course we had, the 3 horses with a power unit and the hay mine, and we went down the blacktop. That Sugar Lake Road is what I always call it. To me, it's still Sugar Lake, but I think it's Lippert Road. And there was a field down there that we farmed, and so I was just got done mowing it, and I was on my way home. It was just kind of getting dust-like, but you could still see it. Just started up the blacktop, and I heard this car coming just all weird. I heard it was really going. I just turned around, and I seen that thing come yet, and it was coming right for me. So I got them horses over, would have been to the right side as far as I could without getting to the ditch. The ditch was probably 2 feet deep right there. All of a sudden, it was just boom. That thing hit me, and I went flying. And, of course, a lot of things happened there. It was just a little car. It spun that car around and about 15 feet up the road on the other side in the ditch where the car landed. Well, it tore the diesel right off with the cart, diesel engine. And so I landed. I jumped just before it hit, because the platform where I was standing on is where it hit. If I wouldn't have jumped, I wouldn't be here today to tell you this. So I jumped right into the horses. And the horse I landed in, it's just amazing. If I would have done that any other time, he would have let it fly with both feet. But it didn't happen because the impact, So next thing I knew, somebody was there, trying to get my attention. It was the neighbor lady. She knew me. She said, "Willie, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I am." And here the engine was right tight against my side here, the motor. And the horse's 2 back legs were tight against here. That's where I was pinned in. Then I heard 2 horses walking up the road. And just out of blue, I said, "Whoa." And them 2 horses stopped, because I couldn't hear them anymore. By then it was dark, pretty much about dark. So finally, I tapped the horse legs a little bit, and he just moved a little bit, forward, it looks like it get up. And of course, the neighbor lady had hold of the horse there. But anyhow, the tongue that goes up through, where it hits you in the tongue, that thing was split in the middle, and it had a splinter about this long, and that was poked into that horse's side at the time. So they pulled it out of there. Then I remember I heard my brothers and sisters coming, down the road running. That was another time my dad came. He put his arm around me, and he walked with me all the way home. But I still ended up going into the hospital, because it was just more of I was knocked out of wind, and concussion. That's what it was. I had a bad concussion. So for that whole night, I wasn't allowed to sleep. They didn't let me sleep. So Mom stayed up all night. And she was out there while Dad did too some, but Mom, she'd sit there beside me and she wouldn't let me sleep. It was for so many hours but I pulled through that because I'm still going. So that was one episode. I was in 97, 96, 95, 95, right? When we got married was 95. Yeah. So June 9 of 95, we got married. Actually, it was in 94 when I met her. She lived in Milton, Iowa, just a couple hours from here. I had a uncle living out there, and of course, we were out there. His wife was in a bad accident, and we were out there visiting, and that was the first time I seen her. They came to a hospital to sing some songs. She happened to be along, but I had no thoughts, nothing, actually. But then another time, my sister started going with a boy out there, dating a boy out there. She was teach school out there. Actually, she lives there now, my sister Martha. So, me and my sister Verna decided we're going to go out to visit Martha and also go to my Uncle Robert's, was his name. And, yeah, we went to church that Sunday. And lo and behold, there was this girl. I tell you what, it was all over with. I could think of nothing else but her. So anyhow, before I went home to PA again, I had a date. So that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. I still say that. Anyhow, so, oh my time's up. Oh well, we'll go on. We were just married about a year and a half. I had 2 years. No, it was just a year. I got really desperately sick. And I actually climbed down the basement stairs, just to try and release the pain. And I was down the basement, and all of a sudden I just started knocking my head against the block wall. I had so much pain. She came tearing down. She knew I was hurting. I just wanted to quit it. I wanted to end it. So that's how much pain I had. We ended up going in, went down to Franklin, and they checked this and checked that. They gave me a bunch of morphine and got me settled down. And I remember being in the room there. After me a minute, the nurse came in, and all of a sudden she went running out. She screamed, "Code blue, room whatever I was in." Man, the nurses came flying, the doctors were running, and so it was immediate surgery. So what I had that time, I was having a problem with blood clots. So what had happened, I got blood clots in my veins surrounding my small intestines. And that was blocking my intestines, so my intestines were dying. And then the intestine had busted, then I got that poison all over my belly. It's just a miracle that I'm here today. God has a reason for me yet. God has a purpose. Because my doctors told my wife, "Your husband will not survive tonight." And I'm here today. So that was the first time. So anyhow, then time went on, and we had a son born in 97, October 18, right on my wife's birthday, the same date. But just a year, the year was 97. And he was just like 1 year old. I got hurt in the woods, had a tree top was a tornado woods, and trees were twisted and hanging. This is the very last tree, and it wouldn't go down, so I put a wedge in and started beating it, and the third pound, all of a sudden, next thing I knew, I was down in this big old skidder rut, and I couldn't move, and I had so severe pain. The wind was knocked, I couldn't breathe barely. The wind was knocked down. That top let loose and came down and hit me on my left side of my head. Busted my hard hat in 4 ways, at 4 splits. The guy with a skidder came up through there, and he saw me there, and he just jumped off of there, and he came running over there. And of course, he wanted to talk, but I couldn't talk. I told him, I couldn't. I had so severe pain and couldn't breathe. Finally, I was able to talk. So he wanted to call 911 to come in and get me. And I was stubborn. I said, no, I'll be okay. I'll walk out. Here, I wasn't even on my feet yet. So he helped me up on my feet, and oh, did that hurt. Well, he couldn't find my glasses. To this day, they're somewhere in the woods there. So finally, I tried to walk, and there was no way. I told him, you come up here with your skidder right beside me, then help me up on your skidder, and we'll go out to the end of the... It was like we were in like a half a mile, I think. He helped me up on there, and I tell you what, he went as slow as about as that skidder could go. Oh, yeah, that was torture. That was torture. We got out there, and he wanted to call 911. I said, no, please, can I have your phone? I'm going to call my chiropractor, Willie. So he did. I called my chiropractor. I told him a little what happened. He said, yeah, you can come in, but they were just open for 15 minutes. They were going to close. They said, I'll wait on you. And he said, Willie, are you sure? And I said, yeah. Then I called my wife. I couldn't even talk to her. I was so much pain. But anyhow, he helped me. He had to help me in the truck and everything. We went for the chiropractor. Stubborn Willie. He walked in, the chiropractor was there. He said, Willie, I'm not treating you till I do an x-ray. Well, I knew he had an x-ray machine there. So he had to help me. I sat down so he was ready. He had to come out and help me get up on my feet to walk back there. I could barely go. Took an x-ray. I went back and sat down. Pretty soon he came out with it, and he said, Willie, you're going to the hospital. He showed me, he said, you have a bunch of breaks. I said, no, I want to go home. He looked at me. He said, Willie, you're nuts. I said, well, I want to go home. So he helped me on my feet. He walked me outside and took two of them to help me in the truck. I was hurting so bad right then. Of course, Ruth Ann knew about it. In the meantime, I didn't know it. She called our doctor down in Franklin. So there was all the arrangements were already made, and she had somebody coming to get me. I got home, and they helped me in the house, and I sat down. There was little Martin. He was on my wife's lap, and he'd seen me. And usually, he was a mama's baby. He was a mama's boy. There were times that I could hold him. He was really content, but he still liked his mom. He liked me, but he was a mama's baby. All of a sudden, he wanted to come over to me real bad. His mom said, no, Daddy's hurting real bad. I don't think he can hold you. He could just, bobble and mumble, He was on and on. Finally, I told Ruth Ann, please bring him. I want him. She put him in my lap, and I hold him. That boy didn't make one move. He sat there and didn't make one move. He knew I was hurting. He knew something was wrong. So it was actually Robbie Datweiler that came. When he came, she literally had to tear him out of my lap. He wasn't going to let me go. But anyhow, we went in, and of course, I had, my shoulder was broken, had 4 breaks on my back, 2 ribs broken. The one rib had my lung punctured, and I was bleeding. But I pulled through. And then I'm just going to, I had a bunch of more things. I had 2 accidents there at the mill. Steve knows. But that last accident I had there, I fell over the bull wheels on the debarker. There was a log, they got pinched, and I was going to try to get it over as I got the cat hook. It wouldn't come, so I really got hold real good. I wanted to flip it back. I decided, well, I'm going to make this thing come. I jumped up and back. Well, it came, but just a little piece of wood. And over the bull wheels I went, and I heard the crunch, crunch, crunch. And I was hurting. So I tried to get somebody's attention. They were cutting. Finally, I got Willis, my nephew's attention. He came running. Of course, then Willis went on the 2-ways, and of course Rudy came, and they actually had to set a step ladder up and help me down off of the debarker. So that was another time we should have got an ambulance, but I told Rudy we can go faster with you than with the ambulance. He pulled right down. He was right down by the debarker. He had to help me move him maybe about, 5 feet or so, something like that. He helped me in. He called my wife on the way in, told her what's happening. So in there we went. By the time I got in there, my one lung was collapsed. I had blood clots and the whole 9 yards, and I was bleeding. So they did a little surgery, and a couple of days later, the same thing, they tried to clean me out, get the blood away and all this and that. So one day they decided to do surgery to fix my lungs, to get it back where it belongs, to clean me out. The next thing I knew, I heard this like I kind of woke up, and there was a guy, and I asked him, "Am I in a helicopter?" He said, "Yeah." I heard him say to the other, "Hey, he's waking up. We can't let him." And I asked him, "I'm real weak, and I could barely talk." Then I realized I was in a helicopter, and I was flying. But I was hurting so bad, I didn't care. I was about out. So the next thing I knew, I was down there and was after having a big surgery, and I woke up. And that was another time the doctors told my wife down there that they don't think I'll survive the night. I'm here today. But there was a time while I was down there, I was so ready. I wanted to go. I told my wife, "Please let me go." I started pulling cords. I pulled a tube out of my mouth, throat, pulled the IV cord off. She went for help. The nurses came in. I would not let them connect anything. No. So I didn't know. It just happened that 2 of my nephews came up. The one from Kentucky, one from Jackson, Ohio. And they just got there, and of course my wife knew it. And Joe Mullet, Joseph, he's a special nephew. My nephews are all nieces, nephews. But there's something about Joseph, he has a soft voice. She got him, and he came up, and he taught with me. He really taught with me. They sang a couple songs. Him and Marvin was the other one, came up too. They prayed. Finally, I said, "Yeah, connect me up again." And I'm here today. Because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here today. But anyhow, so after that, we had our son. I'm just going to share some there. My time is up. It's 12:30 already. I'm sorry.
You're good.
There's a lot left behind, but I have to get this part. He was baptized, and he was doing real good, and somehow, he got into a little trouble and with the group he was with, and they got on the wayward way. They didn't do anything that was bad, but they just weren't living a Christian life. And there were some that weren't back converted yet, and so I went from there, and he always said, evenings he said, "Mom, Dad, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this." And we knew he didn't want to. But time went on, and he was working for Eason. That was the best thing that ever could happen. So one day I met with Eason on a Saturday morning. We met out there on 19 there, and I just had a long conversation with him. We discussed this and that. Then later on, Eason told me I was just about ready at my wit's end. I was like, "It's no use." But he said, "I'm so glad I didn't give up," and he didn't. But one was on a Saturday, I think, or was it on a Friday? I think it was on a Saturday. I knew something was wrong with him. He just wasn't himself. He went through a spell that he didn't. I could always talk with him. He would listen. He never made trouble for us before. I mean, just very little, you know. You know how boys are. He was a boy. But he always listened good and this and that. But then he got into that, and all of a sudden, you know, I couldn't really communicate with him. You know, and he was good with Bible. He knew Bible verse. You know, you read it, but he just dropped everything cold turkey. He actually, you know, he'd get mad at me a couple of times, and so finally I was some people, and I'd ask, you know, Sheriff, what shall I do? What shall I do? So there was one person told me, well, Willie, Myron knows what you and your wife want. I think you're trying too hard on your own and not depending on God. Said, instead of reminding Myron, just totally release him and take it to God. And that's what Willie did. That's what I did. I told my wife, and we did that. And 5 days later, he was a different boy. We could see the change. Even 4 days, I could tell it already. In 5 days, it was a big change already. Then it came the day that we heard him. He was out in our entrance, big entrance. We heard him on the phone. He was talking with somebody, and pretty soon he came flying in the door. He was in a hurry. He said, I'm in a hurry. I gotta go. This was already in the evening. I'm gotta meet somebody in town. Did he say Easton? Yeah, meeting Easton in town. And we knew something was happening. Something was going on. We weren't sure, but we knew something was happening. Finally, it got late, so I couldn't stay. I wanted a certain time. I just couldn't stay awake. But my wife never went to bed until Myron was home in the house. She never did. She always stayed out in the living room on the couch until Myron came home. Always. Always, always. So she was there when he came home, and she told me Myron came walking in the door, and he had a big smile, and he had his thumbs up like this. He didn't say too many words, did he? Anyhow, he went back to his bedroom. And we could feel it in the house that it was a complete change in there. But that was the night, he shared a little bit the next morning, but that was the night that he met with with Ethan, and he confessed everything. He dropped everything out. He dropped everything. And as parents, that was just so wonderful, that good feeling. We were excited. Well, was it 3 weeks later? Roseanne's mom passed away. Myron wasn't home. He was at work. He found out about it. I guess Ethan didn't even let him drive home. You know, that shook him up so bad. Ethan brought him home. We buried mom on a Sunday. Myron wanted to go back work on Monday. I told him, no, Myron, just stay home. Let's just get things, let's just relax and kind of get the grips of it again. Pretty soon he said, Dad, I want to brush hog your pasture. It was time to get a brush hog. He knew I'd do it. I said, okay. So he grabbed a tractor and went out and started, and pretty soon we were having problems with oil, leaking oil, and I finally came in, and the oil was just running out of there. He said, by the way, we'll just later on. And he said, no, Dad, I want to brush hog that pasture. Call Lester Byler and see if I can use his tractor and brush hog. So I did. Anyhow, in the meantime, he got an asthma attack from making just 2 rounds out there. He was just puffing and carrying on and wheezing, and so he had to take inhalers. So he went in bed. So I went and got the tractor and brushed hog and brought it over, and I think I made 1 round. Here he came walking. He said, please, Dad, I want to do it. So he did it. Once he was done, he came up to drive, and I went out, and he looked at me, he had a big smile, and he said, Dad, now I'm owed a pasture for you, and I want to make it real nice for you. I want to make you do a good job for you, so it looks beautiful. I want it to look beautiful for you and Mom. I never thought about it. That's what he said. I want to make it beautiful, look beautiful for you and Mom. So I told I'll take the tractor and brush hog home. Anyhow, so, I don't know, he went out that evening exercise. I don't know if it was with any of you guys or not, Mark, but he went out that evening doing some exercise, then he came back. We just had a good evening together. Of course, he went to bed. I got up the next morning and went to work. I could hear him breathing, but I never knew that I would not see him alive again when I walked out that door. I never dreamed that, I never thought about it. So I never got to talk with him that morning. Because when he left, where he was late getting up, and usually he gets all excited if he's late. He wanted to be on time. That was him. I guess he got it from his dad. But he didn't get excited, and he was running around there getting dressed, and he went and said bye, Mom, went out the door. And of course, Roseanne didn't think about it. Pretty soon, he turned around, and he came back. Did he come inside or just opened the door? And again, he looked at Mom and had a big smile. Big smile and said, bye, Mom. Anyhow, I came home from work. I was mowing yard, going back and forth there, and I wasn't watching time. Pretty soon, Ruth Ann came out. She was in tears. She said, I know something happened with Myron. He doesn't text me, and I can't call him. He doesn't answer his phone. I tried to text him. That's one thing about Myron. He always texts. If he was going to be late, he always texts Mom. He always did. Or he called her, said, hey, I'm going to so-and-so. I'll be a little late, but I'll be there. He always did. But that evening he didn't. She tried calling him. She couldn't get him. I told her, Ruth, just calm down. Just relax. Said, he probably just made a mistake. He'll be here. Of course, she went back in the house. I told her, just go in the house and just try to relax. Everything will be okay. And she went back in the house, and all of a sudden I had this funny feeling. I can't explain it. Anyhow, I went on mowing. I made, I think 1 or 2 rounds. Here she came running. Here came the police car. Up the road. I knew automatically. But anyhow, he slowed down. And he pulled on up the road, went on up the road. I told her, just wait. Let's see what happened. I told her, sit down here on the mower. Just wait. I had to ride him. Just sit down. I knew I had to stay calm. So just try to stay calm. Let's see what happens. Of course, then he pulled in the driveway up there and he stopped. Then he pulled backed out, came down the road real slow. We were sitting right there where that little mini barn is there beside our driveway. Then he pulled in. He just stopped, end of the drive, pulled in. My heart hit the road. My heart just hit the ground like that. He walked in. He asked us, are we the parents of Myron Dean Gingerich? I said, yeah, I'm his dad. He said, well, I have sad news for you. Your son was killed. Then I asked him, well, what happened? He said he was in an accident. It was a log truck. And he said, and I have to tell you, he was at fault. He drove into the log truck. And he had to say that because, depending who it would have wanted to sue or fine or something like that right away. Then, I don't know, some reason, that day I had talked with David. He was there in the mill. Somebody just went through my mind. I said, well, who is the drug truck? He said, well, I don't know if I should tell. I said, yeah, I want to know, was it white? Is it a white cab truck? And he said, yes. Then he told me what the writing was. I knew right away who it was. That has hurt so much more. Finally, just happened that my aunt and uncle by marriage, Dan Millers, were there for the evening. Of course, they came right out of the house when the police came, cop car pulled in there. Marilyn came out. We were all together. Finally, the cop asked, the sheriff guy there asked us, what funeral home do we want? So I told him, Steve Meidner, who we had. And then he asked before he left, he said, is there something I can do for you? I said, pray for us. He said, I will. So he started walking out. Then he turned around and came back. And he had tears running down his eyes, on his cheeks there. He said, I can't believe it. He said, I can't believe it. This is so different. This is so different. I never experienced this. I asked him, what's different? He said, you're staying calm, and you asked me to pray for you. He said, he said, you never know what you face going out telling people that one of their, one of your children or whatever was killed. He said, I got beat in the face. I got spit at. I got screamed at. I got cussed at. And here you told me to pray for you. But that wasn't me. That was God. But I was taught different too. I was taught. We're all taught, So he left. And my wife was gone already. I didn't sure. I knew she went in the house. So I just went in the house. I looked. I didn't know it. Then I heard her on the phone. I still to this day. I just told her the other day, I can't believe how you went in the phone and you called your brother. She went actually inside and she got her phone. She called her brother, Marvin. Marvin and Myron, they were just like this. They were just, and Myron and Grandma, they were just, they were so close. Grandma would do anything for Myron. But anyhow, I went in our bedroom, and I collapsed. And for a little bit, I was mad. But not long. Then Ruth Ann came in, and we just had our time. Anyhow, the first person there, I can still remember the first person there was my sister Berna. Came in the door. She hit the floor. She just collapsed. But anyhow, time went on. I think the next ones there was like John Kurtz was there pretty quick too. I think he was one of the next ones, real close. Doesn't matter, but just it was all in a blur the rest of that evening. But it's what I'm here. Every day we walk out of our house, out of the door every morning. We're not guaranteed to walk back into that door. And what are we doing with our lives? That just goes through my mind often. What are we doing? Am I living for the Lord? Am I giving everything? Or am I living for self? Am I mad? Or am I blaming somebody? Am I accusing somebody? So I just encourage, and I need it myself. When we walk out of the house in the morning, children, Myron always did. He said, bye, Mom. And Myron hugged Mom every morning before he went to work. Even if he was 19 years old, he gave Mom a hug every morning before he went to work. And boys, don't be embarrassed to hug your mom. Don't be embarrassed to do that. And moms, don't be embarrassed to hug your boys. You'll never regret it. That's the best memories my wife Ruth Ann has. Anyhow, time went on. I'm just gonna drop some of it. But this is the encouragement to deal with that. How do you deal with that? I tell you, if it wouldn't have been for the church, it would have been for God, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. And I thank every one of you here that was involved with that. And John, I remember you had asked that evening how many will be here for breakfast. The next morning, John came with breakfast for us. He went, I'm not sure, McDonald's or somewhere. He brought breakfast for us. But that evening, my wife collapsed. I didn't know what was going to happen. She went into Martin's bedroom, laid on his bed. People were coming. There I was by myself out there. My wife was in the bedroom. Of course, I went in and back out. And, of course, we had many people praying. Finally, she got back up and came out. But the next thing I remember, a bunch of people left. But this is the part that's really touching. Who came walking in the door? Myron's buddies. Mark Gingerich, Lucas Gingerich, Leon Miller, and Toby Winger. And Joe Yoder came. Joe Yoder was Myron. Joe Yoder was a hero to Myron. Myron really loved Joe. They really connected. They had a lot of fun together. But the one I really remember is Toby. Anyhow, so we had a time of sharing that evening. So as time went on, with the funeral and everything, but how to deal with that. There's not a day goes past that I don't think about Myron. But there's a time I thought, how will I ever heal? How can we heal? How can we? It's 5 years now. June was 5 years. But now we can talk. We talk about them. We sit together and we talk about them. But don't kid yourselves. There are times that we still lose it. Just last week. I think it was last week, yeah. I'm not sure what happened. We started talking. I bawled my head out. I just did. I couldn't help it. But it doesn't last. Before it was all day long. Then maybe for half a day. And then maybe for an hour. Now it's down to like maybe 5 minutes or a couple minutes. And life goes on. That's something we have to remember. Life goes on. We're still here. And we're still going. And there's others. They're sitting in here. We love everybody from the church. We do. But the couple that we came out was, they're like our mom and dad. And they know it. There's more than once, if I kind of get trouble, I need some advice or something, that I talk with Wayne and Bruce. We love everyone there, and we do. But Wayne and Ruth are a special couple to us. They're our mom and dad. But give God the honor. That's right. Give God the honor. So that's the thing I encourage you boys. Your parents love you. Your dad loves you. Your mom loves you. And you go through a stage you think you know more than your dad. You don't know more than your dad. Just remember that. Your dad knows a lot. See, we're young, and we want things to happen bang. Well, your dad, he's there, well, let me think about it. Give me a little time. As you get older, you're a little bit more like that. Well, let's think about it. And I know, when I had stuff, I wanted it done now. Well, it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. But there's one last thing. We look at it now. I love children. You all know I love children. One thing I really thought was, I'll never have grandchildren. I'll never be a grandpa. And I was looking forward to that. But you know what? I have a pile of children. Everyone in here, you're just like children. The ones there in the church. Thanksgiving we were together, and they took a picture, and I sent it to Wayne. We were there with my sister Penny Mae. What did I have? He could just see my head. There were 3 of them on my lap. Before they took that picture, there were 3 on my lap and 1 on each side standing there yet. I have all kinds of children. I love you children. I love everyone. But the way we look at it now, you know what? We have a family in heaven. Our family started in heaven. And that's our goal for me and my wife, is heaven. You know, some people think, well, we want some more time. We want more time. We're both. We'd be ready. We'd be ready. But I'm not going to be selfish. I still have my wife. She still has me. We have each other. But we're still, it can't come quick enough. And then I ask myself, am I living for the Lord? Just pray. Ask you to pray that I stay connected to God. But I'm so sorry. It's so late. I often said, why did it take the death of Myron to bring me where I am at now? Now, don't get me wrong. I still make mistakes. Satan is real every day. He tries. But I look at stuff totally different now than what I did then. It just makes a change in you. And I'm glad. But now, we can't sorrow. We can't be upset. We still have our times of weep. But you know, we have no worries. I mean, not about Myron. Good often, where is he? What is he doing? Like you still, I feel bad saying that. You still have your children. Your youth, they go away. You're thinking, what are they doing? You got concerns for them. And keep them concerns. What are they doing? We don't have that anymore. We don't. But I have nieces and nephews. I have great nieces and nephews. They're my nieces and nephews. They call me Uncle Willie, even if I'm their great uncle. I'm Uncle Willie and Aunt Ruth Ann. I'm praying for all those now. And I'm praying for all the other children. And I'm praying for the youth and everyone here too. My goal is that I live a life that I don't mislead anyone. I don't want to do that. I want to live a life that when I pass away, that people can look back and say, yeah, Willie did so and so. I don't want to be held up. I just want to be there and stay connected with God. I want to leave a testimony that is, how would you say? I want to leave a good, true, honest testimony. That's my goal. But there's a lot more that could be said on that subject. But I want to ask just one more thing, dads. Don't take your boys for granted. Moms, don't take your girls for granted. Appreciate everything they do. And be there for them. And if the boys want to go fishing, go fishing. Yeah, you have to work. You need to work. But what I'm still saying, spend time with the children. You'll never regret it. Because once Myron wasn't here, I had to struggle with, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I spend more time with him? Why? You know what? Work. Money. What is more important? We need money to make a living. We need to work to keep healthy, keep going. But is that worth more than your children? No, it isn't. Children are still number one. God gave us those children as a gift. God gave all the children you have, that was a gift from God. And that's what I finally realized. That's a true gift from God. Now it's our responsibility to raise them children up, to teach, how would you say, to teach them in the direction, get them prepared for God, get them prepared so when their time comes that they're ready. If they're not to be used, those children are not to be used. They're not. They're a gift from God. So let's use them as a gift from God. I made many mistakes, but God forgave me, and God has to, I ask for forgiveness every day. So now we're excited. We're excited. We miss him, but we're excited. We have a goal. We have a goal. We learned a lot through this, and we're still learning. Anyhow, so that's, I had enough. I was going to share more, but my time's up. That was enough. And I'm pleased, I'm not looking for self-pity. Not one bit. I don't want that. The only reason I shared that, just things that we went through, changes we went through, me and my wife went through, changes I went through. And I just shared that for an encouragement as you dads and moms for your children. And we're all looking forward to that heaven door, and I can't wait. We want to all be there together, don't we? Right. So just apologize for taking so much. I knew it was going to take me more than half an hour. I talked with Steve, and he told me, and I just looked at my wife and I said, there's no way I'll make it. So now Mark can really accuse me for being long-winded. But no, that's fine, Mark. I shouldn't have picked on you, but I told you I have to be a little ornery to you. I appreciate Mark. So, okay, we're going to, again, I just thank you for listening. And I just shared this for an encouragement. There's no way that I can explain what we went, how we felt. There's just no way. Even Ruth Ann I can't tell her how I felt. She can't tell me how she felt. But we went through it together. And you know what? I still have my wife today. Don't forget, every once in a while, we get in a quarrel every once, but nothing serious, nothing big. We get in disagreements. But I love my wife. I'd be so lost without my wife. If something would happen with her, I don't even want to think about it. I don't know if I could go on living. I could, but I just... And the other thing I was going to share, since it's just me and her, I just about can't do anything at home. I just can't without my wife. And she can't do anything without me. If I'm out working on my vehicle, she's right out there. Give me the wrench. I seen her face so black with grease and oil already, I had to laugh at her. If I would have had my phone, I would have took a picture of her. That's just the way we are. We go to town together. I always thought, why don't you just go? No, I don't want to. And she started saying to me, no. We do everything, we try. Most of it, we do everything together. So anyhow, that's just I guess I'll do a prayer yet, and so maybe we'll just bow our heads. And Father, we want to especially thank you for this day. Father, thank you for the safe trip out here yesterday. And Father, we just especially thank you for this beautiful morning, this time we had together here in fellowship here in church. And so Father, we thank you for your Son Jesus, who died on the cross and the blood that was shed there in Calvary for each one of us. And Father, we just ask to be with the congregation here. They're still new here and just growing. And Father, just be with them as they have decisions to make and as they keep on growing and building your kingdom. And Father, we also just ask, thank you for that you were with me, you guided me, and you directed me in what I shared, and just so Father, just take this time and thank you that we can still go to church and we can have fellowship with you. And there's places where they have to do it in secret or in hiding, and we have this freedom. So Father, just ask to be with us the remainder of the day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.